All right, so we're back here with After Hours, and we're going to be talking a little bit more about our cameras and are they keeping up with the times. So we were at a couple different junctions where we were talking about what these iPhones and these other awesome devices that are coming out that aren't even cameras, that they have these features in the software that we can add into our cameras, but we're going to talk about some things. The iPhone 6 again has face detection, HDR built right in. You have the image stabilization and optical image stabilization in an iPhone. That's crazy. Panorama feature. Why can't I do a panorama that I have to actually go into software and put this stuff in there and take all this time to work out in Photoshop? When an iPhone, I can go like this and it saves it as a panorama. It takes me 2 seconds to do it. I put it up on Facebook, where 90% of our pictures we talked about are going right now. How much are we printing? We're printing 5%. And most people aren't even doing that. So we'll start off with Susie here. So what are your feelings on those couple features I was talking about? Face detection, HDR. Some of these have smile detection. These point and shoots have smile detection. It's like, oh, they smiled. Oh, they're all smiling.
I have a point and shoot that does pet face detection.
Awesome.
Pets.
How does it know if your pet's smiling?
I don't know.
Bailey's always smiling.
He is. He smiles all the time.
Like click, 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 click.
Yeah.
But isn't that wild? How does
Yes.
it even know that? How does it know what a smile is? That's
How does it know what a dog smile is?
Yeah.
I don't know what a dog smile is.
So the thing about panoramas and stuff, I would love to have that in my DSLR.
That'd be great.
Yeah, and I understand the technology behind it that is happening within a cell phone. It's essentially taking video and it's stacking and it's doing all the post-processing inside. And I'm a control fanatic, right? I want to do all my own processing to an extent, but if I want a panorama and I want something, you know, quick and easy, I'm there, this is the camera I'm shooting. I don't want to have to pull out my cell phone and make the compromise, right, of my exposure and, you know, resetting all of that. If I've got it dialed in my DSLR, I want to be able to just go ahead and get it and put something together like that in the camera, like I would in my cell phone.
And not buy Photoshop to have to do it, you know?
I
Like
love
I have
Photoshop.
but why would I, but for someone that doesn't have it, for a beginning user in our group.
For
why would
beginning
they-
user, that's fine. But for professional use, you're never going to be able to stray far from that.
If you're telling me that you could just put that on your ball head and just go like that and record a panoramic and be done and have it at high definition quality, you'd be like, no, I don't want to use it.
I'm not saying that. I mean, that's a great feature, but I wouldn't be using that all the time. That's one of those features that you use, like for professional work, you know, like during a wedding. I may take one of those shots or maybe two of those shots.
Right, because you're a wedding
throughout the
photographer
entire day.
predominantly.
But throughout the course of a wedding, I'm going to be taking photos, and those photos will be edited because you're going to be going from different lighting conditions, and you're trying to make a congruent, you know, tonality and color, you know, color.
See, but you're a little bit different. That like Susie does Photoshop a lot, and she spends a lot of time, and Sprague does a lot with different plugins and everything. You're using Lightroom like me, so you're going in there and you're tweaking them, you're doing cropping, you're doing minor edits compared to what they're doing, where she spends 6 hours on one photo.
No, I don't spend 6 hours on one photo.
Well, I mean, to the extent that you can get a good picture with a new generation camera, I think that's what everybody wants. I mean, the whole thing about photography is this is designed to keep you refreshing equipment in your bag, and you won't refresh equipment in your bag if you have something that works perfectly all the time.
I'd like to get rid of the equipment out of my bag. I mean, to be quite honest, my herniated disc is just flaring up too much.
It's getting
I'd rather
heavy.
go with a
Well,
small.
and I've been on two, you know, month-long travel photo walks where I had, you know, tried to really lighten the thing down. I had a 5D Mark III, and then I had a 2470 and a 7300 and a tilt shift and a tripod. And you carry that around all day, and it is a pain.
Yeah, literally.
You know, I mean, you
it's
go
a 40
through,
sound
you go
sack
through
of,
2 months worth of physical therapy when you get home just to get all the cricks out of your body. So, you know, I really think that there's a certain amount of that that's going to have to work its way into DSLRs. But the thing is how do they keep refreshing these DSLRs, the Pro version, so that people will continue to spend $3,500 for a 5D Mark III or a D800, or then something up on the top end, close to $7,000 or $8,000 for a new camera. I think for me, one thing I'd like to see in a Pro camera is to have a trigger for your lights in there, so that you don't have to have a remote trigger.
and you know they have that.
And
they have that.
And Canon has got a really good
no, well,
speed
even
light
Canon
system.
has that. Canon has that, and there's 6D.
Well, you have the controls to operate it in your camera. You just don't have the trigger in your camera to fire the flash.
The trigger's built into the camera.
Not in the 5D Mark III.
No, but on the 60 it is.
Okay, but in the 5D Mark III you don't have
Which
that.
I don't get that.
Yeah,
that doesn't make
exactly
sense.
it, because in terms of camera lines, the 5D is above that, or in the.
It came out.
It came out literally months before, and yet the technology, they put it in the consumer brand camera. So if you have a 6D and the flash, the corresponding flash, which is the 600 EXRT, those two will communicate with each other internally. Everything's built in internally. But the 5D Mark III...
Nikon has that same technology. They had
Nikon,
it years before.
Yeah, Nikon has that same... But the 5D Mark III, which is supposed to be a higher-end camera, doesn't have that feature. Why?
Right.
That doesn't make sense.
That's what we're trying to figure out. Let's go into Micro Four Thirds for weight. So you were trekking around. You were in Cuba. You were on all these different trips.
Right.
And I was up in where was I? I was up in California somewhere, up in the
Ansel Adams
Wilderness with Alex again and a bunch of friends up there. And this stuff was heavy. My friend John brought 2 bodies, a 7200, a 24-70 extender, and then I believe another lens. And that was about as much as my whole backpack with my clothes and food.
His pack was real heavy too. So
correct. So again, these Micro Four Thirds cameras that Alex said let me borrow, and he had all of his lenses and everything fit into one little bag. Now, is it worth the image quality? Kind of losing the image quality a little bit to now be able to carry more lenses and have more of a small camera to kind of carry around, not hurt your back, and get them into places that you normally wouldn't.
The image quality is still not there. I mean, if they could make a camera that would have a sensor that would record to the level that the 5D Mark III would, and they could put it in the Sony camera or the Olympus camera, then I think everybody would buy it. But that's the only thing that really keeps those cameras.
But the image quality is not bad.
The image quality is not bad.
It's not good enough.
The lens quality.
The responsivity, though, the focusing, and especially with motion, from what I've seen and read, is just not quite there yet. So for sports and things like that, and also for low light with motion, the Micro Four Thirds have just a little bit ways to go still. And then also, my understanding is that the lens selection is still lacking in some areas.
For Sony, for Sony.
There are some.
Well, there's 2 problems. You tested them with Michael and I. So Sony, there's only like 3 lenses currently as we have recorded this. So there's only 3 native lenses for it. And the Sony's great with nighttime. Its ISO is amazing. Now you have the...
and it's full format.
That's full frame, yes, and ISO can go up to crazy amounts. So you can photograph at night, and it's like night vision. But again, if you can't get many lenses for it. Now the Lumix one, awesome camera, very what does it shoot? 4K video, so amazing 4K video. But what was the problem? You can't buy the lenses; they're out of stock everywhere. So you can buy the camera all day long. There's no lenses for it. So now you're stuck with.
Well, the lens, they're spendy lenses too. So switching right now is
Michael spent $10,000 on them.
A huge financial commitment to try to shift at the moment. Whereas Sony, you can actually switch to the body and use an adapter with your Canon lenses and kind of transition over time. Another thing I think that's a benefit, and I think this is probably a little bit off topic, but ergonomically speaking, the Lumix was a little bit more intuitive as far as I was concerned than the Sony. Some of the button placement and things like that on the Sony were a little bit frustrating.
Oh yeah, it was uncomfortable.
Yeah,
no, it was uncomfortable. Menus weren't as straightforward.
But size-wise, it was nice to have a very robust piece of equipment that was not so bulky and heavy.
Well, the other thing is, how are you going to sell this camera to a sports photographer? Because you need a 6 to 800 millimeter lens, and they're having a hard time coming up with a lens that they can put on a smaller camera because the thing is so out of balance, because you've got this tiny little camera and then you've got this huge lens.
Our friend Michael had tested these with us, and he did a whole 30-minute video just on the Sony versus the Lumix. they're not great wildlife or sports photography. And it's not because of the lenses, it's because of the actual speed of it. It can't keep up. So it's like click, 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 and then it starts to slow down. So maybe the first 2 or 3 shots you get, but if you have a bird flying across your vision, it'll be click, 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 and then it's going to lag and it's not going to keep up. So they are behind on that, but on everything else, it rated really high, like a surprisingly high. Like he was comparing this, he shoots a 5D.
They're good all-around walk-around cameras. They're great for that. They're great for, you know, your street photography. You know, they're just, you know, just any kind of, you know, thing where you just want to have a camera with you. They're perfect for that. Sure. I think. But I personally,
so are a lot of point and shoots.
Well, yeah, sure, but I think these take it to many steps ahead of a point and shoot. I mean, point and shoots died a long time ago when smartphones came out. I mean, smartphones killed the point and shoot like years ago.
By the years end,
your good general walk-around camera is now your phone.
Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, what do we use this trip? We were just using. I used my iPhone. You were shooting your big camera. I was like, click, got it. Yeah, I don't need to take a picture. That rock looks like a rock. Whether you got it or I got it, I put it on Instagram. It was done. That's done. Everyone likes it, and yay, I'm happy. And you're sitting there like all composing it and everything, and I'm like, no, I got it. It's good. Looks like the same rock.
But back to Micro Four Thirds, I think they're very close, and it's not long until they fine-tune the focusing technology so that there aren't shortcomings in terms of motion and things like that. And my understanding is it really has to do with the optical mechanics of it, and DSLRs are using a mirror technology that is allowing the camera to perform focusing before exposing the sensor to the light. And in the Micro Four Thirds, I could be wrong, but my understanding is it's looking at the sensor is sensing the light and then making the focusing decision. So it's
some of the cool stuff is that it's live. So you're actually, when I was shooting this little Olympus, and it goes for anything. Again, this is just what I tested, but we tested the Lumix, the Olympus, the Sony. I haven't tested the Fuji yet. I've heard lots of great things about the Fuji, but in this technology, when I was actually in the camera looking through the viewfinder, it's kind of, you see what you get. So I would hit the shutter and it would be like, oh, it's too dark, it's too light. That was it. I didn't have to shoot it and chimp it. I was like, I would just adjust and then shoot. And Alex.
Well, yeah, and the cell phones do that now.
Yeah, Alex's camera, when he shoots it a long exposure, he actually can set it for long exposure, and it develops it like film. So he watches it and he's like, okay, there's the church. Okay, there's the sun. There's that. There's the tree. Okay,
yeah, it's
stop.
exposing in live time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, in real time.
How hard is that? That's like, let's going back to film of how you're seeing it. Okay, how did Ansel Adams decide when to stop developing? Why did we go backwards with our DSLRs that we have to guesstimate, okay, and then you look at it, oh, it's too much or it's too little. This is simple things that these camera manufacturers should be like looking at each other. They should have spies in each of their little things and figure this stuff out.
I suspect that they are very well aware and where they are in terms of competitive development. Typically, companies have teams, and that's why I wonder
there are some
that
camera
they have some strategy involved.
There are some camera manufacturers that are just stubborn on their course.
Sure.
And we've seen them die. I mean, Kodak went a long way. You know, they went. Kodak. Yeah, they went because they were stuck on what they believed was what they needed to, do as far as.
It's the purist mentality, right?
Yeah,
it's
film was the only thing.
It's the purist. It's this is how it's done because this is how it's been done, and then sometimes I think that can kill you.
Yeah. Right, but if you notice, everyone is switching to video, and they're putting all of their R&D into video technology, and stills is pretty much they've got that down. We can make a still image. You can make a still image from anything. But at Photokina, they just had, I think it was Panasonic, just put out a camera and they had a demonstration about how you can start pulling stills out of video. And they're 8 megapixel, and that's just the start of it. Yeah. And pretty soon when they start running 4K and 6K and 8K, they're going to have the resolution where they can pull stills out. Now, I know a lot of people are probably saying, well, video is different from stills because you run it at slower shutter speeds and you get that blur so that it's a smoother, but again, I believe that's a software function that who says that you can't record at a faster shutter speed to get that tack sharp image, and then have software blur it for the video, or some technology, you know, that makes that happen. Video, I think, is kind of where everything is going. All these manufacturers are pushing in that direction.
I agree.
So,
and video. See, you know what? I've had video cameras. My parents bought me a video camera. I had a nice $1,200 Sony Handycam, and it's still in there. And I never really caught on to it. It's a lot of work. And what happened? My parents would videotape us, like, oh, look, you're jumping off the diving board, you're doing this, you're doing that, and that all gets put in a box and you never see it again. At least our photos, they get online, they get to be seen, and all that stuff. Like, if I go and put a video up on YouTube, what's the chance of someone seeing it? It's like this big. Well, you guys should be watching this one. You should definitely watch this video.
Yeah, I mean, people have the attention span of a
right.
when it comes
And
to
this is probably a totally other topic, but I think that you're dead on with the movement in the direction of video and quality video. The next big milestone that I think we're going to see is being able to pull a quality still out of video that is still frame, that measures
print quality for
that stands up against the traditional still frame photographer rendition of that same image. And as far as the, not getting exposure of your videos, or not as shareable, right? You don't post an album of videos typically. You post an album of stills. But we will, I think, tend to be pulling our stills from there and then making albums of them, and not really setting up for one shot.
Well, there's also the newest trend, when we were walking through the trade shows, not too long ago, you saw the technology of where Flixel, where they're mixing, stills with video. So they have a still image,
cinemagraphs,
but then part of it's moving and part of it's in still. And so it's kind of like that Harry Potter effect, that Harry Potter look,
When it's done well, it's really nice.
I did try
Other
that.
times it's creepy.
I did try it with some of the flood pictures from Havasupai, and it's not as easy as it seems. You really have to forward think the shot,
right?
Like a lot, not like, oh, okay, let's do this. Like, you have to really almost set it up to get a good shot that works that way.
It has to be shot so that something's still and then other things are moving.
That it's really subtle, like, so I was trying to just get the river to move, and the horses, remember, they were coming up the river, and it was downpouring when we were up in the cave, and they kind of came up the river, so I paused everything, and then I was like, I just want the river to move a little bit so it kind of goes, and it was hard to get it because the shot wasn't made for that, and I was moving. So you really have to, really choreograph that, plan it.
But again, my point is that that's all coming from video technology, not from stills technology.
Right,
And
that's cool.
But like, you see the new iPhone 6 that just came out, and it's shooting 240, at a frame rate of 240, so you can do, incredible slow motion with it at high resolution, which our DSLRs don't even do that right now, which is ridiculous.
Right.
I don't understand that. So, and they can do it. It is just it tells me it's just nothing but a software upgrade, or a firmware upgrade of some sort. But
well, Sprague and I were looking this up right before with the Magic Lantern, which you had never heard about.
Yeah, Magic Lantern is the other one.
So that's built a lot on video, and it has all of these features that you can pop an SD card in with this Magic Lantern and upgrade your firmware on your cameras.
Certain models.
Well, the thing is, you have to, video and stills are transmit ideas in different ways. I mean, the thing is, when you have a video, it takes time to understand what's happening, whereas the skill in photography is understanding a moment or an image or a place in a single frame, and that's what gives a picture an impact. And so, you really, are kind of mixing apples and oranges at some point. I mean, if you're doing kind of an hour presentation on something, then a mix of still frames and videos is effective. But if you want somebody to understand a moment in an instant, then a picture is the most effective way to do it.
Well, I don't think stills will ever be, obsolete.
Yeah.
There's always going to be a need for stills.
Sure.
I mean,
well, and the other thing is, it's it's a time.
Evidently, our screensaver for your viewing
What's in
pleasure.
here again?
Have we already reached that moment of
This is magical
after hours?
mimosa.
We
It's
want
my
your
favorite colors.
tang.
It's purple, blue, and green. That's my favorite.
So this is for your viewing entertainment as we finish the rest of our
All right.
presentation. You can see
Getting
this is a
dizzy.
news production.
It's
So,
very
what-
colorful.
The point
Right.
that you were speaking to, though, about capturing the moment, even with the 70D and my 7D, 7 frames per second is exceptional. I can't really complain about it, but I still miss the shot. When it's the bird taking off or whatever, it's 7 frames per second. And so the bird is here getting ready to take off. And then the next frame, it's here. And I want it in the middle.
Oh, you
But
want a
if I have-
1DX, like,
Yeah, and if I can film it in video and then pull a quality frame out of it to capture the moment, then I'll have accomplished my ultimate goal.
But the thing
And-
is, you talk to sports photographers about that, and here they're
Mm-hmm.
shooting 14 frames a second, and that's great, except you've got tens of thousands of pictures to go through at the end of a football game. And so, if you're anticipating the moment, which is really kind of a talent for photographers, you have to know what's about to happen, and then
then do
nail
a
it
video
within-
burst. Yeah.
Yeah, then hit it. For example, I just did an air show, and an air show is a lot about knowing what events are coming. I mean, a lot of times you don't know that a certain group is coming into a field of view. They just suddenly are there, and by the time you look up and get all your stuff out, the moment is gone. So a lot of it is anticipation. It's like they're coming from over here, and I want to catch this airplane just in this angle of bank right at this moment.
Yeah,
and you
and if
just
you're running
find it, you
video-
track it, you catch it, and you nail it. But if you just are out there shooting an air show and you're just following an airplane around and just going like that, you're going to get home and go, "What have I done?" I'm going to be here for
Filled
2
up
days
cars.
going through this.
Yeah,
And,
well, a sports
But in a
photographer.
video, you can scrub through video and find that sweet spot that we were talking about. Are we? I don't know what we do. Okay.
yeah. So.
So that's why I
Yeah.
like video in that it's one file. I can scrub through it for the moment, and then, but ideally, I want to be able to pull a quality frame from it. And I do agree
Well,
that's where we're going.
a sports photographer would be going for that one cover shot, the one sports illustrated, like any photographer should. We went out to Joshua Tree just now and we were shooting all these Milky Way shots. If anyone sees at least 5 of my shots, that would be a lot, but we shot a lot more than that. We did test shots, we did everything else, but I'm looking for the one shot. So when I'm, even as a photographer, videographer, whatever, really, I think we're looking for the one shot. Your wedding photographer is a little different. You have to deliver 200
Yeah,
shots
but no,
or
but
so.
even still, I mean, I only deliver probably 20% of what I shoot.
Yeah. So,
and that's good.
but
that's-
so you are missing a lot no matter what you're doing. And I do shoot a lot less, I find now, than I did back in the day. With something like sports or birds or
Live event.
stuff like that. It's moving.
But sports, what's coming. I mean, if you're going to be a good sports photographer, you have to know the teams, the players, how they typically set up, what they're likely to do, so you can anticipate where the play is going to be. And that's what makes a good sports photographer. That's what makes a good wedding photographer, is because you know how the whole event is going to come together, and you're not just waiting and going, "Oh, wait a minute, there, there's this."
So I've been testing a couple of different things. Joel Grimes turned me on to the Cam Ranger, which is a little device that you put on top of your camera or hang it off your camera, and it does all these other features that should be built into these cameras. You have the intervalometer and time lapse that you can do with this. You can do focus stacking, which I know Larry does a lot of.
Focus stacking.
So you can take lots of different pictures and stack them later. You can do unlimited HDR bracketing, where instead of just 7 frames like you're saying, you can do 100 frame HDR and get all this dynamic range. Live view, where you're seeing it right on your iPad. And I know you were having a problem with your 70D that, you can view it with your Wi-Fi, but that's it really. You can view it and take a picture, but you couldn't do other stuff. It wasn't really feature filled.
Yeah, the Canon remote utility is
lacking.
very lacking. It doesn't have anything really aside from shutter speed, aperture.
See, and that's all software. That's
all
what you're saying.
software.
It's all software. That's not, the Canon's not lacking, because the Cam Ranger can do it. And
if you install Magic Lantern, that alleviates a lot of those issues right there. I mean,
if I could put it on a 70D. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
but
you know,
shouldn't have to.
you
That's
shouldn't
the
have
whole
to
point of
have
this conversation.
third-party
Right.
software.
Well, most of those things are crippled up so that you'll buy the next evolution. And they
Well,
never
that's what I was
do
saying
really
earlier. It's all
work.
planned obsolescence.
Yeah.
And these big manufacturers are on this path of this planned obsolescence. There's no. I believe that they already have the next generation camera done. It's in
there's
testing.
An iPhone 7 out there.
It's already out, you know, or at least on the drawing boards. But the thing is that they're going to just release little bits and pieces.
It's in their project plan. So
They've been doing this
what
since.
can we do? I think something that might be helpful is what can or should we do from a consumer perspective, a professional consumer
We should just
perspective.
boycott everything and just.
Well, what would you do as a photographer? What are you going to do? What is your next step? Are you going to go out there and you're going to buy the newest Micro Four Thirds when they're
the
not
newest,
100%?
latest, greatest i6, iPhone 6?
Yeah, the iPhone 6, or you know, what are you going to do? That we're not trying to cast any judgments here. We're trying to uncrack the code of what actually is happening here and why we don't have these features. You know, are you going to go out there and put Magic Lantern? Are you going to buy a Cam Ranger? Are you going to go out there and should we carry more stuff around now? So, you know, really, we're trying to...
we can also appeal to Canon and Nikon and, you know, the other major manufacturers.
If they're out there watching, we're watching you.
We can let them know what it is that, and in a productive way, right? Hi, I'm Susie. I shoot this kind of photography, and these are the features I'd like to see in your next major release, and here's why. And here's why I would continue to patronize your brand.
Oh, I love my Canon. I love my lenses. They're sharp.
Right.
They're, you know, Nikon. They're all, the equipment itself is dead on. It's
the optical
just
technology is there.
Yeah, you know, and I'm not gonna like Mike said, I'm not gonna switch out. I'm still gonna keep my 5D and my camera and all that stuff. But am I gonna add on when I sold my 70? Am I gonna switch over and buy a Micro Four Thirds as a backup? And I think the answer probably for me is yes. That I will probably figure out which one I'm going to switch over to, but that's going to be my secondary camera.
Well,
it's going to be a backup.
You see, the answer for me is no.
You
I won't switch over.
You won't because you're a wedding photographer.
Well, it's not just that. It's the fact that I've got a lot of money invested into a system that I'm not going to all of a sudden just switch brands and switch, you know, manufacturers because, you know, the investment of switching over to a whole new system is just, it's crazy.
It's about $11,000 according to Mike.
Well,
the other thing is
starting.
Something that is not the latest and greatest that you're familiar with, that you know how to use, will ultimately give you better images than trying to use some gimmicky new technology that you're not familiar with. Because about the time you get used to it, you start chasing this one and chasing this one and chasing this one.
Yeah, see, I stopped trying to be on the bleeding edge of technology a long time ago because for me personally, you know, the cameras that I had 5 years ago, they were top of the line cameras. That was only 5 years ago. That's not a lot of time, you know.
You can't get $200 for them right now.
Right,
and what can you get for your 40D?
But the thing is that I can still use.
Put it up here with these.
You know, the new 7D just came out. I have the old 7D. Am I going to get the new one? No, probably not. Why? Because the original 7D is still not a bad camera.
It's still a great camera.
It's a great camera.
But I'll tell you what's going to happen, and this is just my prediction, and I could be wrong. You'll stick with the regular camera bodies. You'll stick with your 5D, etc. Right?
I'm the kind of guy. I would drive the wheels off my car.
Right.
Until the wheels fall.
And you shoot wedding photography predominantly. You do portraiture, that kind of thing. He's going to go get at some point a Micro Four Thirds. And it's going to be his backup camera. But with all the travel photography and the adventure trips and things that we do, that he does specifically, and the hiking and that kind of stuff, the backup camera is going to ultimately be the one that he shoots everything with. And eventually he's going to be like, I need to sell my 5D Mark III because I never use it anymore. 5D's for sale
right now. You can buy it.
He won't use it
Email
anymore.
me down here.
So he'll call the Micro Four Thirds a backup. It won't be a backup. It just won't be.
All right. So as far as the lenses, Sprague, the lenses are available for these Micro Four Thirds systems. You do have a wide variety. With the Sony, I've heard that there is only a couple lenses. The ones
that are native.
That are native, but with the Micro Four Thirds, there are plenty of lenses, and they're interchangeable between Fuji and Olympus. And
there are mount adapters.
No, they're native. They work. You can put an Olympus lens on a Lumix. You can use any lens on the micro. The Micro Four Thirds it's like VHS and Beta. All the VHS tapes work in every VCR. So those, from my understanding of everyone I've talked to that switched to Micro Four Thirds, you can use Olympus lenses on Fuji. You can use Fuji lenses on Lumix. They're all switchable. So you have a bigger range of lenses.
Yeah, I think
But do
you
they all
have it in there.
autofocus and?
I think they all work natively. You can buy film type ones where they don't, and you could buy adapters that you can put your Canon lenses on, but there's other problems with
That's
that we
what I
won't get
mean.
into.
Because typically that's a problem if you put a Leica lens on some of them and those weren't
You lose
designed
your-
autofocus, you're not going to have it. So.
Yeah, you lose stuff. So in wrap up, once again, this was After Hours show, and we are here again with Scott, Sprague, Susie, and myself, Nick. This is sponsored by PAC and also tie-dye crazy colors and stuff. So we'll see you next week at the same time, same place, and our topic is going to be, is Photoshop photography? So this is a heated debate. We have lots of different opinions on it, and we all have our own opinions, so we're excited to see you. So see you real soon, and thank you for joining us. So big cheers again, guys and girls.
Cheers.
All right.